Hello, welcome to the Evolve Vets podcast.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Bethany. Together, let's stop revolving and start evolving.
Welcome back to the Evolve Vets podcast. I'm Anna.
And I'm Bethany.
And in this week's episode, we're going to talk to you all about your authentic values and living in alignment. In the last few years, really come into ourselves to understand what is authentic to us, what do we value, and then how do we start to make little decisions and take baby steps towards living an aligned life. And we're going to go into why authenticity matters, how to discover your authentic values, and then how to start taking small action steps, baby steps to get there in your own life.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about authenticity and what it means to us. Authenticity for me is showing up as exactly who I'm meant to be. You know, when I think back to little Bethany and all the things that she really loves, trying to reconnect with those and really deprioritize those areas where maybe I, played it small to fit in with society or to meet the expectations of others, and really just show up aligned and in my true worthiness to be the best version of myself. So that's a lot about how I see authenticity. What about you, Anna?
Yeah, I think that's a great description. It's called authenticity for a reason. It is authentic to each person. So what I've found that's really helpful for me is figuring out what do I value? Not what should I value? What did society tell me to value? What did my parents expect of me, et cetera, et cetera. It's more of like what has maybe been important to me since I was little. What are those things that truly matter? So for me, I can share some of my authentic values. The first one is travel. So for those of you who know me, you know that I am always adventuring, going around the world with my husband, my cat, my friends. And that is something that's so important to me. I'm on a trip almost every month, just adventuring. It's not even like vacation for me. It's just this sense of exploration. I also value community, and that's why it's so important that Bethany and I are building this community for you guys. We like to have deep connection with each other and with others. And then I also value inspirational work. So I have always been, I don't want to say a workaholic, but I get really fueled and I light up when I'm doing work that inspires me. So that's this type of work. And I will spend a lot of my time working no matter where I am in the world. And then my last value is self-care. And with self-care, what that means is taking the time to make sure that my mind, body, emotions, spirit are all as balanced as they can be, given the circumstances. That shifts from week to week. And there's seasons where maybe I feel like I'm nourishing my body more, or I'm able to move a little bit more, or seasons where maybe I'm more contemplative and I'm into my journaling and meditation routine, or taking care of my skin, or whatever it may be. But that's what's important to me. And so things that are not aligned with those values, those are things that if I spend too much time on them, or I don't have boundaries so that I can say yes to the things that I love, that's when I'm going to start getting burnt out. I'm going to lose my energy. How about you, Bethany?
Yeah, great question. So my authentic values are similar to Anna's. Shocker. That's why we love each other so much. My authentic values are travel and adventure. So my authentic values are adventure. And to me, adventure is anything from traveling and exploring the world to innovating and having the ability to be entrepreneurial and having the ability to make decisions freely. So that's a sense of adventure. It's experiencing new cultures and trying new foods and, doing something that is a little bit daring sometimes. Maybe going scuba diving or, I don't know, something fun like that. And my second core value is community. Community to me is like the combination of love and compassion and being there for people, building a place where people have a safe environment where they can trust and have confidentiality to share freely, be open-minded, believe in whatever they need to believe, and really just be loved for who they are. And it's almost like a sense of belonging. So creating a place where everyone can be welcome, have their views honored and respected, and be able to bring people together. It's like one of my special gifts is being able to bring people together where they can connect. And one example of that is something that I started this last year. Moving to Austin was actually Sunday suppers. So Sunday suppers is what we do every Sunday at 6:30 in my apartment building or condo building. We get a group of people together. Sometimes it's people from vet med, whether it be, from the company that we work with or a different area of vet med, or maybe it's some of my friends from the building or, high school friends that live in Austin that want to come by. Everybody's welcome. And that almost like makes it more fun because it's bringing people together and creating a sense of commitment and connection for others. And then one of my other values is going to be integrity. And integrity to me is being true to who I am and focusing on growth, learning. It's a lot of spirituality, being focused on my meditations, really connecting with myself. My last authentic value is luxury. To me, luxury actually means like the ability to care for myself and the ability to like pay a little extra for that workout class because I know it's going to, bring me a better exercise. Or maybe it's like going on that trip and staying at a little bit of a nicer hotel. Or maybe it's prioritizing, like last year, one of my big goals was like having a really solid morning and evening routine, like having a skincare routine that I love and having a hair routine that I really love. So really getting into those practices where I'm prioritizing myself, really living a luxurious life through like treating myself to those things where I'm putting myself first. It feels like a little treat. So I love that.
Those are fantastic. I love them. So as we're going through our values, would love for you guys to reflect on what are some of your values. And these are not obvious overnight. Bethany and I have spent years thinking about these, refining these, and they change, they shift a little bit over the years. Some other examples of values that people we know have could be comfort, tradition, teamwork.
Home, like a hominess.
Home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just having the comfort of staying local.
Design could be that you like things that are maybe aesthetically pleasing, or design and intentionality is really important to you. Some others could be patriotism. It could be family, could be friends, could be animals, right? That could be something that speaks to a lot of you. Take some time to think about what those are. You can Google values online, and then you could take your journal and list out every word that sparks joy. And then once you have a longer list, see if you can sort of start to categorize those. You have your long list first, then you can categorize them by like, okay, well, if it's working out and eating well, those could probably both go under health. Once you have some categories, see if you can narrow it down to 4 values. We like to have 4. That seems to resonate really well with us. So see if you can get it down to 4 values, and then sit with those words. Choose words that are really meaningful for you. At one point, I would say community or connection or family and friends, but those all mean the same thing to me. That's all the same category for me, but choose the words that are most meaningful to you. Okay, now we're going to get into some examples that we can apply to veterinary medicine, because as veterinarians and in vet school, we are taught to really follow the rules, to we sort of all come into the field with a little bit of perfectionism, and perfectionism is a form of people pleasing and being inauthentic. You want to make sure that if you are striving for perfectionism, make sure it's because you want to do something great, not because you feel like, I should do this thing, or I should kind of contort myself into a pretzel to like fit into this. Or you don't want to try to fit in. You want to look at who you are and be able to find a workplace that aligns with that. As vets, sometimes we maybe say yes to things that are not super aligned because our clients are asking for it, or maybe our boss is asking us to work 3 weekends in a row, and that's cutting into family time. And family time is a core value of yours. Maybe you have demands of the job that are keeping you past the time that you want to leave. Say that putting your kids to sleep is something that's important to you, and you want to be home by 5 or 6 every day so that you're able to do that. But you continue to have records, or you see that last walk-in that comes in, and that's eating into something that's really authentic to you. And so even if you love your job and that's super important to you, you still have to realize that if you're spending too much time doing that, it's going to eat away at those things that really replenish your soul, which is the things that you value. So, Bethany, do you have an example of maybe a time in your life when you were feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, and then you realized, oh, shoot, it's like actually that I'm not living in accordance with my values?
Definitely. There's been many epiphanies, as we'll call them, throughout my lifetime where I've been missing some of those alignment with who I truly am and what I felt like I should be doing. So there's a lot of travel in my work, and sometimes I would prioritize being on the road over having something that I could commit to, like doing Sunday supper regularly. It was easy to like make an excuse of, oh, I'm an emergency veterinarian. I might be, working an overnight shift, or maybe no one would come because they might be also working an overnight shift that Sunday. So as an emergency veterinarian, sometimes I work overnights and weekends. So it was always hard to commit to things during those times because I never knew if me or the people that I hang out with would be available during those times. So I always found myself like making an excuse of, oh, well, what's the point of doing this? Because the reality is maybe no one would show up and I would be sitting there alone with this, giant platter of dinner. So I kind of use that as a reason to hold back from a ping that I was having, or a calling, I guess, or leaning into my intuition that's always said I want this community where I can have connection with people on a regular basis. And so being able to, when I moved to Austin, like really committing to saying like, okay, what aligns with my core values? Great. Like this night of the week, I'm going to do my best as much as possible. Of course, always making time for vacation and family, which are other core values as well. But when I'm filtering through that, when it comes to, being in the hospital versus being with my community, I'm going to choose community because that actually makes me show up better the next time I'm in the hospital.
I want to call out one thing that you said when you created Sunday Supper. Obviously, you got really clear that you needed community and that you were in a new city and that this was how you wanted to do it. But it takes some bravery, some guts. You have to be very daring to say, I'm going to say no to these other things so that I can say yes to this thing that might be a little bit risky. You didn't know if people would show up.
And in fact, there were some weeks that only one person would show up, and it would be me and that person, but it would be so fun.
But now talk about Sunday supper. Like how many
so
people
true.
are it's like running on its own.
It is, yeah. So in the beginning, yeah, maybe one or two people would show up. But as people started to hear about it, it became a trend like, oh, you're the Bethany that started Sunday supper. So that's like what people say around my condo now, which is super fun. And I'm honestly flattered. But now we have a group of like 10 to 12 people that consistently show up. They're there regularly. Like right now we're filming this podcast in Hawaii, and there's a group of people that are volunteering to cook dinner tomorrow night. So it's super amazing that we have this process now where it went from me cooking every single meal because I wanted to be that consistency for people to rely on. People started volunteering to cook, and we've actually had a really brilliant time. We've had some people from different cultures. Like we have friends from Jordan, we have friends from Russia, and they each like make their own cuisine. So it's been a really cool moment of like combining this sense of community with my sense of adventure because we're trying all these new foods. And like, in fact, one of our couples that come to Sunday supper regularly invited me to their wedding in Jordan this year. So again, like the more you lean into your values, the more the universe will reward that excitement with, hey, like you're headed in the right direction. Like here's this amazing last minute trip to celebrate your friend's wedding. And it was one of the most incredible trips I've ever had. They did a phenomenal job planning, and like their love is just so strong, and like all their friends were amazing. So I made a ton of new friends. like did something daring, went alone to this beautiful wedding, and now like coming back to Sunday supper is like this community that I can consistently rely on that just fuels the rest of my week and is such a beautiful thing. So come join us for Sunday supper.
I love that. The other thing that you said is really the universe conspires to help you when you're on your path. And because you leaned into something that you value, community, and because you took a risk and put yourself out there, the universe rewarded you with not only making that the vision that you had for Sunday supper grander than something you ever could have come up with on your own, right? It's turned into its own thing. But then it led to you having these connections to even more things that were aligned with you because you met people who had some of those same values as you. And then it allowed you to bring in your sense of adventure and be able to have the opportunity to try foods from different parts of the world and then to be able to actually travel to different parts of the world.
So true. Yes, it's truly a beautiful thing, and I feel very blessed. So do the thing that's daring, even if you're the only one showing up sometimes or people are not committing, like commit to yourself and like do the thing that's authentic for you. I think the key in all of this is just moving forward with small baby steps, small steps in the right direction where you can slowly take commitment over time to be able to live the life that you really want. One more thing that's really important to call out here that we briefly mentioned earlier is that authenticity looks different for every person. So what success looks like to you is different from what success looks like to me, and it's different to every person. So
I would also add that success looks different every few years. Your values can change every 1 to 3 years. So that's something to think about too. And I'll give you an example of time that mine changed.
ooh,
Several years ago, I wanted to be in an office, working on the business, doing veterinary medicine, being able to make an impact on a large group of people rather than just being in a practice for a period of time. And I loved it. I was driving into work every day. I'd go to the office. I'd get to meet with people in person. It'd be on Zooms and I'd be working on a computer. And I loved that lifestyle. It meant that I could go home. I could continue to work. I could also work on the weekends. I could work when I'm traveling. Really, I could bring my work with me anywhere. And over the years, it started to take a toll. I think the self-care portion became more important to me as one of my values. And I found myself driving into work in New York, stuck in traffic, headed into the office, dreading being on Zoom with my eyes dried out, talking to a computer all day, looking into a computer screen, sitting all day. We did not become veterinarians to sit all day. And then driving back and being stuck in traffic and then getting home. And it was dark when I left in the morning and it was dark when I got home at night. And it really ended in sort of a rock bottom because I kept not listening to my body that would say like, okay, maybe this isn't right for you at this stage in your life. Just because it was right a few years ago does not mean that it's right today. And I was driving home from work after a long day at the office and I was like super emotional from the day. I was just not very present and boom, get into a car accident. And that same day I'd also gotten a red light camera ticket. There was like a whole bunch of stuff that happened at work. And it was just this sign from the universe. It was like, hello, if you're not going to listen to your body, we are going to force you to listen. And so it was this big wake up call for me that it was time to make a change.
I love that, like the wake up call term. That's like such a good call out.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing.
because sometimes, like in your example, you had these intuitive hits to go ahead and start Sunday supper, and that's great, and you listen to it. But if you're not listening to your intuition, the universe will find ways of making you start to listen to your intuition. So just
true.
want to share both examples for whoever can relate to either one.
Yeah, and I think the good thing to call out too is we've both had both of these things happen regularly. And it's good to have an accountability buddy to talk it out with because they can sometimes see patterns a little bit more clearly than when you're living through it. Maybe you're not catching on to, those things. Anna will commonly ask me like, okay, like how's that going if you're filtering it through your values? and your authenticity, like how does that align? And then, I'm able to ask her the same questions. So that way we can continue to take those small little steps in the right direction. So it might, like if we reflect back to when we started this work, 7 years ago, we have been able to develop and look back and say, wow, I'm like such a different person now because of these small, consistent steps that are leading to living an aligned life.
That is so true. It's such a good point. And the part about having an accountability buddy throughout all of this has been such a game changer because I, was there with Bethany encouraging her start Sunday supper. And then when I was struggling with like, okay, well, something that served me a few years ago is no longer serving me. And why am I so irritable and upset all the time? Bethany could reflect back to me that like, hey, Anna, maybe it's time to make a little shift, to pivot in your life. Yeah. And so we're really grateful to have the accountability and the relationships during our check-ins every week to be able to see through a new lens so that we can really expand our minds and our ability to be brave because we have that accountability buddy with us.
Yeah, a great thing to call out with accountability buddies too is like we're able to celebrate those small things. Like, every time I go on a new date, Anna's like, that's so good. Like, I'm proud of you. Or, every time Anna, like, takes a weekend off or something, like I'm able to celebrate that with her. And so I think, some of those small things that you do regularly actually end up leading to more fulfillment and like having that person to, help show clarity on the hard side, but then also like celebrating those successes, like ultimately is what makes it's super awesome to like have that partner as you work through. You do the work because it is a work and it's intense and it's fun and you have a lot of joys and then there's more intuition. It's such a process. So having someone to go through that with is key.
So one other point that we want to make is when you're deciding what your values are and then you're starting to make aligned choices to those values, it's one thing to personally come to terms with that and do it and have the guts to do that. But then it's a whole other thing that we want to give you some pointers on when there are people around you who are saying, I don't think you should do that thing, or I think you should keep doing life the way that you're doing life and just change your mindset around it. So we want to share some examples of how to make these decisions when you have other people who you care about who might be telling you something different.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we talk very surface level, it's easy to, push off that authentic edge to do what people expect you to do, or maybe if they're not buying into the things that you want to do. So I've had the I've had the intuitive calling to do Sunday suppers for many years. And sometimes when I would bring it up to people or pitch it and I didn't get buy-in or people weren't like eager to participate with me, I found that would, kind of deter me from doing it out of that, I guess, fear that no one would show up maybe. And so being able to like do it anyway, like with the fear, like you said earlier, is daring. But maybe there's situations where, you're making a decision for you and it's your new authentic self and it's what you want to lean into. But the reality is like, that's a different version of you that has to show up and commit and do the thing. So like finding yourself, like the more you lean into the authentic you might actually outgrow past versions of yourself as you become more aligned and more authentic. So it's okay to evolve and change yourself and develop while also like giving honor to those past versions of yourself and letting yourself like level up a little bit too. And knowing that not everybody's committed with you along the journey. So being able to like find those core people who will be in it with you, like celebrate the successes and those wins while also like developing alongside you.
Yeah. So to recap, like one, there's the fear of just like the hardness of making the decision yourself. And then two, there's a fear of disappointing people around you. And then the third piece is just that it can look really messy sometimes. It's not clean. It's not like, I value working out, so I am just going to show up to my job later so that I can work out in the morning. Like, it usually doesn't look like that. It looks like, this is hard. I keep sleeping through my alarm. I'm pressing snooze. I'm late to my job. It could look like all of those things. And I'll give you a real life example for Bethany and I right now. We're starting this podcast And we brought all this equipment to Hawaii, and we've been waking up at 6 a.m. to be able to start filming before the sun is super bright. And we have this whole production set up with like beach umbrellas to block the sun right now. And this morning, as we were filming, and we have our cameras stacked on top of books and kitchen pans.
This is quite ridiculous.
We're sitting here and the camera just tumbles and it hits our audio recorder and it presses one of the sound effect buttons. We had no idea. We recorded an entire episode in the monster voice effect, which we'll have to add some clips in so you can hear it. It's totally ridiculous. We were belly laughing, crying. Oh, we wrote an entire episode, an hour of like filming because it's in the monster voice.
We'll have to start over. So, brand new episode coming soon.
Coming soon. Halloween version.
Halloween version.
And so it's obviously so messy. We have planes flying overhead making noise. We have wind hitting us, sun trying to get to us, my family talking in the background as they're eating breakfast because we're out here like two crazy people filming a podcast. So
in
it's
the backyard.
messy, and there are things that there's resistance that you'll hit that it'll be tempting to stop, but don't stop. You have to just run everything by your values, go back to your values. And if it's still in line with what you care about, just keep going and know that messy is a part of it.
There's going to be tests, right? Because as you lean more into who you're supposed to be, the universe is going to say, are you sure you're in your worth? Like, are you sure you're ready to do this? Are you sure you're ready to start this podcast? Like, do you really believe that you know what you're doing? The answer is we don't know what we're doing, but we're figuring it out and like we're willing to try. So I think every time we hit like one of those moments of, oh, like, is this going to work? Are we going to be able to do it right? I think the answer is like just going back to like, we believe in this community that we want to build. We believe that women and vets really need mentorship and people to connect with. And we'd love to be those people to connect with you. And ultimately, we're here withstanding every test and overcoming every test, every hurdle that comes out in front of us so we can bring you this very put together version of the podcast. So the authentic you is, who am I? What does the youngest version of you, the person that you were born to be, really align with? How do you really like light up and show who you truly are? So leaning into that person, who you want to be, who you've desired to be since the time you were little, and really starting to take small steps to really act those out. We, have our Authentic You Masterclass coming, and we really want to challenge you to go find an accountability buddy or an evolved bestie, as Anna and I call ourselves. So go find your evolved bestie and come back to sign up for the masterclass because we want you to be a part of this journey with us. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to you understanding who you are and then being able to level up and evolve from there.
I want to end this episode with a quote that I love that I wrote down. It's in my list on my phone of favorite quotes, but this is a reminder that I give myself when I'm hesitant to start something. So this is from Tig Notaro. I cannot express how important it is to believe that taking one tiny and possibly very uncomfortable step at a time can ultimately add up to a great distance.
That's amazing. It's so true. Looking back at where we started our journey as, friends in vet school and trying to figure out who we wanted to be afterward to now, it's going to continue to evolve and like we get to be with each other throughout it all.
So take that one tiny step.
Take the one tiny step. Awesome.
Until next time, let's stop revolving and start evolving.